Thank you very, very much, Judith, and a very good morning to each and every one of you. If I was seeing you live, we would have done some real warm-ups right now, some high knees and some hands moving, but there you go, it's online, but I am sure we would get to do this at some other point. So it's a pleasure to join you all today for this very important conversation on how we can make Leeds a city where everyone moves more every day. For those of you who know me, living an active lifestyle has been something I have done for the last 40 years. So I have been an athlete since I was 9. You can all guess my age, all right? And that has just been so, so important to me. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the organizers and the partners who have brought us together today and for their dedication to making physical activity a huge priority for our communities. So from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the city and the council, I just want to say thank you. So for those of you who haven't had the chance to actually meet me, yes, I have been introduced and I am deeply passionate about the city and the well-being of our people. My journey with physical activity started very, very early, like I said to you all, and I have been a sprinter. So my personal best timing for 100 meters has been 11:93 seconds. But obviously, as I've grown older, the best I've done so far in my 40 is 14 seconds for a 100-meter sprint. So when it comes to sprinting, that's what I am very passionate about. Okay, but what we are saying today, it's not about you all being top, tier athletes. It's all about you moving. It's all about you. It's your hands, it's your head, it's your neck, it's your body, it's your leg. Whatever you do, please move. Sprinting is not for everyone. Walking, I always plead to everyone, if you're able, just do that. Where you could take the stairs and the stairs, yeah, instead of the lift, please do that. Okay. So for someone like me, full of energy from very little, and then of course God blessed me with boys, then the energy went times 2. Obviously, when you've got male kids as well, and sports has really, and living an active lifestyle has really given me a sense of belonging in the sports world. Being part of Leeds Athletics Club as well for me has been spectacular and has been special. So I've been able to coach under 15 children, but obviously I've been off for a while now with my mayoral duties, and I am looking to going back to continue coaching after I finish my mayoral year in May. So being part of an athletics club in the city, which is a fantastic club that opens up to so many children, from different families, from affluent families, from families who are struggling, but all you can see is that yearning from young children just wanting to be part of a club where we coach young children on developing their skills in the athletics world, whether we're on track or off the track. So I always say, in whatever form it takes, moving is very important because it can shape not just our physical health, but it also shapes our confidence, our social connections, and our overall well-being. But we know that not everyone has the same opportunities to stay active in life, and that's a fact. Okay, in many of our communities, particularly in disadvantaged areas, there are barriers, whether it's access to safe spaces, financial constraints, or simply not feeling welcome in certain environments. This is why our ambition to make Leeds a place where everyone moves is so, so important. Physical activity should not be a privilege. It should be a natural, accessible, and enjoyable part of our daily life. And I'm really pleased that we're having this conversation because we need to continue to promote this all over the city. So how do we achieve this? We need to meet people where they are, whether it's providing more community-based activities, whether it's ensuring that children are safe, they've got safe places to play. We also need to make sure that we are integrating movement into daily routines in ways that feel achievable and also feel inclusive. We need to keep spreading the message that movement doesn't doesn't have to mean a structured exercise. It can be walking, it can be dancing, it can be gardening, or simply taking the stairs instead of taking the lift, like I said earlier. So movement counts, and every effort that you make every single day, trust me, that makes a difference. So as your Lord Mayor, I am fully behind this ambition, and I encourage each and every one of you, whether you're a decision maker, a community leader, or simply someone who cares or plays a part in making movement a way of life in Leeds. Today is an opportunity for us to share our ideas and learn from each other and inspire new advocates to join us on this journey. So I look forward to hearing from the rest of you today and working together to create a healthier and more active and a more connected Leeds. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Marshall-Cotton. That was amazing. You know, I think everybody would agree. It's a very inspiring start to the day. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. I should introduce myself, because the one thing I did forget to do, everybody, was actually introduce myself. So hi, everyone. I'm Judith Fox from the Public Health team. I lead around physical activity, and I'm going to be here for the first half of today before I hand over to Nigel Harrison. So hello again. Good if I'd actually told you who I was, but hey ho. And we're going to just go into, I think we've now got the chat function working as well. So please just hang on to us, because we're doing our best in the background in terms of all the technical stuff. And hopefully now, fingers crossed, everyone, we're going to go into our first fantastic video of a case study of stuff that is happening in the city.
Hi there, you join me on a really nice, warm, sunny, autumnal day here in Lincoln Green. I'm here to tell you about a brand new walking group that we've got going on in Bermtoss, Richmond Hill and Hare Hills. So this is starting now in October, and it's free for anybody to join. The whole point of the group is to get you out and about walking more, using walking to get to and from the shops, to and from work, and out and about on your daily business. So my name is Joe and I work for Touchstone. I've worked there for about 5 years doing specifically walking groups, actually. And a little bit about me is that I have a big passion for walking, in particular walking in nature. As you can see, I'm here under some lovely trees just next to Bridge Street Church, and there's some of the high rises here. And I think there's a great benefit in walking in nature. It can help to make you feel a lot calmer, a lot happier, and as well as the exercise, you benefit, you know, in lots of different ways from just being around trees and nature. So you might not think it, but there's a lot of nature in and around Leeds, and it's one of the greenest cities in the UK, as well as other cities like Sheffield. And in and amongst all the houses and all the shops and all the roads, there are lots of little stretches of nature. And it's about finding those little bits of nature and perhaps weaving them into your daily routine in where you're walking, where you're going about. So the walking group, like I say, it's free, and it's on a Thursday afternoon, and we're going to be meeting in Lincoln Green at our office, which I'm going to take you to now. So at the moment I'm walking just past the road that comes from town, and it goes all the way up to St James's Hospital. And at the start of every session, we'll just sit down, have a cup of tea, catch up a little bit, see how everybody's doing, see how everybody's feeling that day, what people feel up to doing that day. And then we'd make a plan and we'd go out for a little walk. So as you can see, it's quite easy to get to our office here in Lincoln Green. You can either walk here or you can cycle here if you want. Yeah. So what's the group about? Well, first and foremost, it's about having fun. It's about moving your body, learning to enjoy walking, and being social. One of the best things about walking is that you're meeting new people, and as you're walking, it's a great opportunity to have a chat and just to have a laugh, really. So we would be walking from here initially, starting small routes in and around Bermontoffs, Hare Hills, Lincoln Green, Richmond Hill area. And you might not think it, but like I said earlier, there are several really nice strips of nature within these different wards. So firstly, we'd explore these areas, and then it's dependent on what people want to do, but we could move further afield. We can get the bus a little bit further out. We can visit some places of natural beauty a little bit further out from the city. But like I said earlier, you'd be surprised You'd be surprised by how many amazing parks and little bits of nature there are just within Leeds to explore. So the walking group will be a safe place. It will be a welcoming place. It'll be a place to learn and grow with each other and to explore new places, like I say.
Fantastic. I think some of you may have had some issues with getting onto the video. I think we're going to put it into the chat, are we? Or we're going to send a copy of it. Joe is absolutely fantastic. He works for Touchstone, as he said. He's passionate about our city and passionate about what he's doing at the moment. The Walk It Rider is a 1.3 million pilot that we have in the city. And Touchstone and Health for All are a part of the third sector who have really stepped up and helped us to really deliver that in the city. So it's a massive thank you. I hope you all managed to see it. It's a brilliant video, and Joe takes us through a little bit of Lincoln Green there and just kind of emphasises the importance of green space as well. So hopefully you've all seen bits of it. We'll make sure that you get the video a little bit later, but I'm now going to hand over to Councillor McCluskey, who is here on behalf of Councillor Venner, the lead for Public Health and the Health and Wellbeing Board. Hopefully this bit will go smoothly because it's a real person. So fingers crossed that everything else goes okay. No pressure, Councillor McCluskey.
No pressure at all. No pressure at all. Good morning, everybody. As Judith has said, my name is Councillor Adrian McCluskey, and I'm here today as Councillor Fiona Venner, Support Executive Member for the Equality, Health and Wellbeing portfolio. I'm delighted to be here today to discuss our shared ambition for creating a city where everyone moves more. Physical activity is a dedicated priority within our health and wellbeing strategy. Our vision is a city where everybody can be more active more often. We know that the more time people spend being physically active, the greater the positive impacts on their health and their happiness. Physical activity helps reduce obesity, supports recovery from illnesses, and fosters connections among people. A more active city will mean a greener city and a stronger local economy. Leeds' Best City Ambition sets out a mission to tackle poverty and inequality and improve the quality of life for everyone who calls Leeds home. Delivering our physical activity vision plays a key role in achieving this city ambition. In a city where everyone moves more, we will improve health, well-being, contribute to reducing carbon emissions, and support inclusive growth. To drive this forward, we've established a new leadership group dedicated to our physical activity ambition. Recent reports, such as the Director of Public Health report, Aging Well, Our Lives in Leeds, highlight the need to review and develop ways for citizens to keep active and stay healthy throughout their later lives. We must focus on supporting people to age well, especially in more deprived areas and ethnically diverse communities. It's worth noting that only 23% of people aged over 50 are physically active, with higher proportions in the least deprived areas. For older people, remaining active is crucial for maintaining strength and reducing the risks of impact of frailty. Significant inequalities in physical activity levels exist across Leeds. Inactivity levels in the most deprived communities are nearly double those of the most affluent, and the gap is widening. For example, 31% of children and young people, 24% of adults, all adults, and 36% of adults aged over 65 are inactive. Most people want to be physically active but find it hard to be, often due to barriers in their environment, such as lack of safe spaces, poor air quality, and access to transport and childcare. As we know, Leeds is now a Marmot city, and as part of this work, we have developed the Fairer, Healthier Leeds indicator set to track progress in addressing health equity. Over the next 5 to 10 years, one key indicator focuses on the physical activity among the over 50 population. The data shows that 50% of people aged over 50 from Asian backgrounds report being inactive, highlighting the need to address these disparities. Fostering physical activity in children and young people can also have positive impacts on academic behaviours and mental health. We must support families to make active play a normal part of daily life, creating opportunities for play in homes, neighbourhoods and community spaces. Improving the city's infrastructure to enable safer cycling and walking is vital to promoting active travel. These changes will not only support more physical activity, but also contribute to cleaner air and safer communities. Leeds is leading an exciting new programme on active travel social prescribing, which will be covered later in another presentation. Creating a culture where everyone moves more requires the contribution of all sectors. We've been working together with local people through initiatives like Get Set Leeds, addressing low levels of physical activity and inequalities. Our ways of working focus on people coming together, sharing power, resources, and responsibility to bring about collaborative change and collective learning. Key activities include the Department of Transport Social Prescribing Pilot and the Get Set Leeds Local. We are proud of the progress we're in delivering our physical activity ambition, and it's important to celebrate how far we've come. We must continue to build on this momentum by connecting more partners and scaling up our efforts. This event is a testament to that goal. Thank you. I believe we now have a short video with Mariana Pexton, and then I'll hand over to Nigel Harrison, CEO of Yorkshire Sport Foundation, who will be chairing the next part of our event. Thank you very much.
Hello there, I'm Mariana Pexton, Director of Strategy and Resources at Leeds City Council. Absolutely delighted to be speaking at this event, albeit virtually. I'm really disappointed not to be in the room because I suspect there's a brilliant energy around the place, given the topic of today, such an important one, and great to see so many different people, all part of Team Leeds, a really wide set of partners who are attending this event. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. My role today is just to say a few bits about the Best City Ambition and the strategic context for this really important work about everybody moving more, and how that contributes to the overall well-being, be that economic, social, health well-being of the city as a whole. People will know that we've got a Best City Ambition. It's about tackling poverty and inequality. Crucially, it is underpinned by Team Leeds, which, everybody in the city is part of Team Leeds and indeed beyond. It has no kind of sector boundaries. It's anybody and everybody who can play a part in achieving our ambitions. So in particular, that's actually the public, especially on a topic like this, where, the little bit that everybody can do day in, day out, week in, week out, is what makes big results and delivers big results. In that Best City Ambition, as well as that crucially important part of Team Leeds, we've got the 3 pillars, which I know are going to be covered by other speakers as well today. But we describe them as pillars, but they're not separate at all. They are 3 interlinked issues with health and well-being, inclusive growth, and net zero. And, this is one of those very, very cross-cutting topics where if everybody moves more, people's physical and mental well-being will be better. If we have more active travel, then we'll reduce our carbon emissions. If people are well, then they will be better able to work. If we can support people who are furthest away from the job market through being physically active, removing barriers to work, for example. So this is one of those issues that cuts right across the Best City Ambition, and where we need absolutely everybody in the city, but particularly everybody in this room, to be advocates and champions of existing initiatives that are already working, particularly some of those in target areas where we've got programs of work that have quite focused on removing barriers to people moving more, but also just more broadly in your you know, professional life, personal life, social life, as lots of people on the at the event will know, who knows me. I'm also a trustee at the Lead Rhinos Foundation, where, you know, our mission is changing lives through the power of sport. And that's not just about sport. That might be about refereeing, or it might be about volunteering, it might be about coaching. It is just generally people being engaged and involved in things. And in particular for this, it is just encouraging people to just move a little bit more. You know, I often challenge myself, unless I've got a really, really heavy rucksack, you know, when I come into the building in the morning, I try and do the stairs instead of the lift. It's little things like that that can actually lead to us all developing new habits and us helping other people to develop new habits. So, you know, that might be, we've got such amazing frontline professionals in the city, whether that's social workers, health visitors, teachers, you know, colleagues in the amazing third sector who are interacting with members of the public day in, day out, and who, if they can just nudge some of that behaviour so that people think about moving more, and how can that help people's physical and mental well-being, then overall the city will be able to achieve more if the people in it are fulfilling their potential. So hope you have an absolutely excellent event. I look forward to hearing the outcomes of the event and continuing to support this work, as I am a really big advocate for it myself. Thank you for the contribution, and let's get the city moving more, and let's everybody take our responsibility for the little bit that we can contribute to that. Thank you very much indeed.
Hi again, everyone. So fantastic video there from Mariana, and a huge thank you to Councillor McCluskey for that great, inspiring talk about where we are in terms of health and well-being as well. I think some of you are still having a few issues with some of the videos and things. We will make sure that these are sent across to you afterwards. I can see some of the chat going on as well, and the team behind me are doing their utmost to make sure everybody is connected and on. But please rest assured, we'll make sure all the presentations and the videos get to you straight after. Okay, so with no further ado, I'm going to hand over now to Nigel Harrison, who's the Chief Exec of Yorkshire Sport Foundation and the fantastic chair of the Leeds Everybody Moving More board, which is a bit of a mouthful, everybody, but it's there. And he's smiling at me at the same time. So I'm going to hand straight over to Nigel, and here we go.
Can you take him?
Wow. Wow, that was energetic, wasn't it? What a great opening. Well done, everybody, so far. And some huge commitment I've just heard from some of the most senior leaders across the city. Fantastic. Yes, I am Chief Executive of York Sport Foundation. I think more relevant here, as Judith said, I chair a group of people who come together who's trying to provide some leadership on physical activity across the city. But it's more than that. It's about connecting, and when organisations and when people connect, that's when the magic happens, and it's always in those conversations that we're having. So we do have a group in place. We do have some kind of, oversight is probably too strong a word, but we do have our eyes on it and doing our best to do what we can across the city. So just moving on, I want to build on some of the things actually that's already been said by Mariana and the Lord Mayor and the Councillor. As I said, huge commitment that's coming through. I think the thing about team leads is really, really important, and that's coming through, and you in Leeds will probably get that more than I will. But the team leads, it is everybody's business. The cross-cutting nature of physical activity, and I'll come on to that and I'll build upon that in a little while. And something Mariana said about the little things that move into habits. That's what we're trying to get every day, and other things about that. Obviously, inequality is coming through absolutely loud and clear. So we do have a vision, and it's easy to say, isn't it? It's simple. Leeds is a place where everyone moves more every day. But we all know that's not it. That's that's not the easiest thing, is it? It's quite complex, and the complexity comes by the interaction of organisations and people in trying to create an environment where it's easy and it's enjoyable for people to be active every day in their daily lives. And that's what we're trying to do and try to get around. I think if there's anything, if there's one word in that sentence that stands out for me, is the everyone bit. The everyone covers a huge range of issues that we need to address if we are going to do that for everyone. So where are we now? Well, we always talk initially about, oh, there's so many people inactive, so many people, and that is, and absolutely we should do. 1 in 3 of people in Leeds, and in common with the rest of the country, are doing less than 30 minutes of physical activity a week, and seriously have potentially have health issues as a result of. But the good news is, and let's start, anybody knows nudge theory, start with the good news. Good news is that most of us are active. Between about 60 to 65% are classed as active, depending upon what year the Active Lives results come out. Almost 2/3 of us are active in Leeds. And when we say active, that's doing more than 150 minutes a week. So there already is a lot to build on of people being active. And Leeds, yep, we're slightly better than the average of England. When you look at also the population makeup and the metrics around the economy and others, actually we're probably punching over above our weight in terms of activity there in Leeds. So we're slightly better, but we cannot be complacent, because, as we say, around 1 in 4, 1 in 3 people are classed as inactive. I suppose the worrying thing for the future is our children, the children and young people. So there's around less than half of children actually meet the recommended activity levels of 60 minutes a day, and it is a real issue for the future that we need to all collectively try to look at and address. And for all ages, you won't need me to tell you this, it's in common with lots and lots of other issues. There are major inequalities in relation to income, ethnicity, disability, and for some women and girls which are less active than the others, which again needs to be a focus. So why physical activity? Well, we've heard a lot about the passion coming from today about it, but we do have to have more than the passion. And sitting behind this, we do have to keep providing the evidence, and we do have to keep providing the data to show the impact of physical activity and how physical activity can improve and help people's lives, both mental health, physical health, and, as described earlier, on the economic front as well. And as Mariana said, physical activity is a cross-cutting theme across all the 3 areas, the 3 pillars around health and wellbeing, inclusive growth, and zero carbon across the city. It is important to the city, and it's our job, hopefully with everyone in the room, to put physical activity at the centre of that. So where did we start? In 2019, there was a big conversation with lots of people, over 2,500 people, nearly 2,500 people completed the survey there and involved about physical activity. Have your say on physical activity in the city. They told us a lot. I'm not going to go through that, and it's a bit of a messy slide, I appreciate that, but just to pick some things out, people want to be physically active. People feel they can be physically active, but there's a few things actually at that time they were saying which is limiting them to be so. Only 70% think it's easier to be physical active. So it's not for the want. We know people want to be active, but it's around about how we provide that environment for people to do so, for people to make it easy, and I keep saying this, for people to be easier and more enjoyable for people to be active, to be able to build it into everybody's lives. And we've all got a role to play in doing so. So just a little bit, a slight national context. We're at national level and government level, and working with the Department of Community Media Sport, which is our sponsoring body, also with Department of Health, etc. We're all looking at the 5 missions. We all know physical activity can contribute to the prevention agenda with the NHS. We all know physical activity and sport can contribute to the opportunity mission around children, young people. We all know that physical activity and sport can contribute to inclusive growth especially, as Marianne said, getting people back and closer to the workforce and healthier. So at national level, physical activity, there's a lot of work to be done though at national level to actually embed it as much as it's being embedded in Leeds. At regional level, we have a West Yorkshire plan. If you've not seen it, it's actually really, really good, which sets out the 5 areas which are similar to the missions. But one of them is a happier and healthier place. And isn't it lovely to have the word happy as a strategic mission? The word happy, because that's what we all should be striving for. And again, the physical activity and sport does have a huge contribution to make to that. So once we've had a look at all the replies that came in, there was a vision established, as I've just done, and then there was a framework. The framework we didn't invent ourselves. We built on the World Health Organization Global Action Plan, and we look at those 4 themes of active society, active environment, people, and systems that are around us. And in doing so, we're trying to build this whole system approach. It's not one thing, and this is it when we talk about complexities, the interaction of organisation, the environment, the people, especially the people coming together to create the environment for people to be active. And the circle diagram on the right-hand side is just one model that we can build upon of how we layer things up to be able to allow that to happen, for people to be able to have active lives day to day. Okay, and I just want to kind of explain some of the layers that we're going forward. So at a community level, we know there are huge amounts of organisations across Leeds who do a fantastic job in the communities. To name a few, I come across the other week the Chapeltown Youth Development Centre doing some tremendous work. Howard's here later, we'll be speaking later on at LS14 Trust. We know the Slum Law. I could go on, you know them. And they're the people who are doing the job. But they haven't always had it easy. And it's up to us, people in the room, to be building the system around them and helping them to supporting them to be the best, not in a patronising way, because the lead comes from the community organisations and the community people, but it's how we can support in the background the work. So that's where it started. There's been some focused community work in various areas of Leeds, using some of which using Sport England funding. There's a bit more of Sport England funding that will come in over the next few years, where we can look at and start supporting organisations in other parts of Leeds. And it is all around that community-led approach. And a lot of people on this call will be well used to the asset-based approach and well used to the language, and you're well used to the themes and principles built into that approach, and we've absolutely been wedded to that in Leeds, which takes the emphasis on the community themselves to be able to do things with other people's support, and all those things are taking place. And there is a risk that we work in communities in a silo of physical activity and sport, whilst other agencies such as housing associations, such as health, such as others actually know those communities really, really well, and we want to be working with those organisations, embed physical activity in those organisations to be able to work in those communities. And you'll be working on those things there. Building up to organisations, there's an example here of workplaces. Neil's done some fantastic work working with those companies about we have how they're embedding physical activity in the workplaces. To create an active schools programme is embedding schools, not just PE and school sport, but about physical activity throughout the school day. And there's lots of work taking place in the health sector about embedding physical activity through the LEAP programme and others into clinical pathways. A huge amount of work that needs to take place in all those areas. In the environment, Leeds has changed, hasn't it? Leeds has changed, even physically changed. When you go into the city centre, it's quieter, it's calmer, there's lots of people walking, lots of people cycling, it's getting there, and some fantastic environmental changes taking place which have embedded physical activity. You only have to go down to Leeds Dock in the city centre, and you'll see the ability of walking around much easier, much pleasant environment where people live, and that has to take place in our communities throughout all of Leeds. And there's a huge amount of work taking place in active travel to try to get there. as I was saying before, the active design area as well, of embedding, making it easier every single day for people to enjoy the design. And there has been some really pioneering stuff in Leeds with the planning department of how physical activity environment is changing around us. And finally, on this, the kind of outer layer, I don't even need to say it now because we've just had it. How physical activity is there in the red circle. You won't, it's a small writing, but see it. It is there. It's up. It's centre. It's called top cover at strategy level. We've got it. It's there. It's one of the things in the Leeds Health and Wellbeing strategy. And it's also in child-friendly and age-friendly Leeds documents. Physical activity, we're getting it embedded. We are getting it mentioned throughout. Doesn't mean to say we've got it cracked. There's loads of work to do, but we're getting the top cover sorted in there. So Leeds is a place where everyone moves every day. Some great work so far, some great progress, but we all know there's much, much more that needs to be done. So for me, these are my kind of almost external perceptions, really. I think we need to build a wider network of partners in leading the movement. The council, when we talk about systems approaches, a lot of the systems are in the council. The council is really important. A lot of the systems are there. Also in the health sector, a lot of the systems are in there. But the people doing it is not necessarily the people doing it is in the communities. We need to spread that. We need to spread that leadership out. We can't rely on the council to do things for us. They can provide leadership. They can look at the systems, but it's around the rest that we need to do. We need to shed that leadership, and it comes across there just a bit more than we're doing at the moment. I will, as called Yorkshire Sport Foundation, still carry a flag for sport. Yes, it is about moving around, but sport is still important. All 40% of the population in Leeds do sport on a regular basis. Almost 80% of children and young people, probably through schools, admittedly, do sport. Sport is still important. It gives strength to communities. There's a lot more in sport as well as just walking around, which is crucially important. For me, it's not either and or. It's the beauty of the and. It's both sport and physical activity. And Sport Leeds is doing a great job on promoting that. We need to keep working. This is our first event. We need more of this. We need people talking to each other, connecting, building a movement, talking to each other, keep going. We need to find ways of being better at working together in communities and not in silos. We need to be making sure we're collectively not going in with how can we support you to be active, but going in with the question of what are the issues in your lives and how can physical activity and sport help that and reverse it. We've got to do the support of that. And we need to be more systematic in the way of adding physical activity and health. So there's been some tremendous work in that area, but it always finds a struggle. It feels a struggle. I absolutely understand the issues around finances that are around, but it feels a struggle and we need to embed it more. And finally, we've been doing this morning. We need to shout from the rooftops. I hear a lot from over the hill about how good they are at Manchester and others. And Leeds is quiet revolution in Leeds over the last few years. Let's not be so quiet. Let's shout from the rooftops of where Leeds is from there. So that's it from me. I think we've just got one more video to do. We'll go into a break and then we'll come on to question and answer from there on in.
Arup is a collective of designers, engineers and consultants working across every aspect of the built environment, cities, towns and infrastructure. We've been operating in Leeds for over 35 years, in Yorkshire for over 65 years. So we're really well established, and in that time our presence has grown from a small team to now over 500 today. We've been involved over the years in many projects that have helped shape the city. The improvements to public realm along the River Aire, which has made that a more walkable, more bikeable place that is used by lots of people. Another project was the spatial framework for Leeds South Bank to set a vision for how that south side of the city centre could grow and how we could make that part of Leeds less dominated by highways, more green, more livable and a much more attractive place to live, work and play. Issues around health inequalities and issues around place, are inextricably linked. One project we've been doing recently with the City Council has been around social prescribing for active travel. So that's working with the City Council colleagues, public health colleagues and communities in some of the more deprived parts of the city to prescribe walking, prescribe cycling, to get people moving, to improving their well-being, to forge that sense of community and those connections between people. I think that's a really interesting project around actually by making those bold steps, by intervening early, by getting people moving. Not only can we improve the lives of people and their health and well-being, you can save the NHS and the council money by stopping some of the downstream problems that stem from poor health. I think there's a recognition across the city that the council can't do everything itself, the NHS can't do everything itself, the business can't do everything itself, and community organisations can't do everything themselves. We need to come together to tackle some of the big issues the city faces and to realise the opportunities to make Leeds a city where communities that are close to the city centre are better connected to it, physically connected through better walking, cycling and public transport routes, but also better connected in terms of access to the jobs and skills they need to prosper economically as well.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Pratibha. I'm one of the health and wellbeing coaches in Leeds Active, and I've been invited to do some movement with you. So if you've been sitting for too long, we'll just do some movement-based stuff. So I'm just going to cover a couple of things. So I'm going to cover breathing first, and it's because when we are sitting, it's apparently been found out that our lungs are degenerating because we are sitting for too long. And we're not breathing properly, so our lungs are sort of degenerating. So I'll just do a couple of breathing sort of exercises. So wherever you are, sit comfortably or stand if you like to stand. And just start with just sitting with your spine straight. And we are just going to sort of do 2 breaths each, I'll let you know the difference between both. So first breath is when you feel extremely stressed. So we breathe in through our nose or our mouth, or our lips, and we breathe out for longer than we are breathing in. So that sort of helps our parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. So let's start with just gently breathing in through our nose, and we're just going to try and breathe in, observe that breath. So we want to try and breathe into our lungs, into our ribs, and use our diaphragm so your breath enters your stomach as well. So breathe in for as long as you can. Hold that breath if you can, and then start breathing out through your lips. You're going to roll your lips as if you're trying to blow a candle. Okay, one more breath, breathing in through our nose. So you're going to breathe in, again, observe your breathing. So your breath should be able to help your lungs, your chest to expand, your ribs to move out, your stomach to expand as well. And we try to hold that breath as well in our stomach, breathing in slowly. And then breathing out through our lips, and we'll breathe out for a little longer than we were breathing in for. Well done. Now we are just going to do another breath. So we're going to breathe in for a little longer than we are breathing out for. So we're breathing in again through our nose, breathe in, and try and breathe in as much as you can now. So use your whole capacity to breathe in. So breathing in and letting our lungs expand, our ribs to move out, and our stomach to expand, holding our breath in our stomach and counting till 5 at least. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, breathe out through your lips, squeeze your stomach in now, breathing out through your lips as if again you're sort of blowing that breath out through your lips to whistle. Inhale again, breathing in for as long as you can. So again, allow your chest, your ribs, your lungs, your stomach to expand. And then allow that breath to move out by squeezing your stomach in. forcing that breath out through your lips. So the first breath is when you are feeling stressed. It could be physical stress, it could be a mental stress. The second breath is when you're feeling sluggish, when you are sort of sitting down or you're bored and you feel really sluggish. So second breath is to move out of that sluggishness. First breath is to move into a little bit of calmness. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of a movement now. So if you are a desk worker, we are just going to do few movements. Maybe standing up now if you can, or if you're sitting down, you're fine to sit down. And we're going to start with just stepping out as wide as we are comfortable with. So maybe hip distance wide or shoulder distance wide. Move your arms out. Now stretch your arms out and then cactus those arms. So bring your arms in. That's it. Now slowly move your arms in front of your chest, in front of your heart. And then move your arms away. As we move our arms away, we are going to come up on our toes. Try and bring yourselves up on those toes and balance on those toes. Try and breathe in here. And as we breathe out, we'll bring our heels down and move our arms in. Once again, breathe in and move your arms out. Lift your feet on those toes. And breathe out, bring your heels down, move your arms in. Well done. So you can do this as slowly as you like and as fast as you like. Try and engage your muscles and also look after your breath. And again, breathe out, bring your arms in. We'll do 2 more moves here. Again, move out and breathe in, moving our arms out, squeezing our shoulder blades, opening our heart, our chest. And then breathing out and resting those arms and bringing our heels down on the floor. One more, breathe in, move your arms out, lift your feet on those toes, squeeze your shoulder blades, and then slowly bring your arms in and breathe out, bring your heels down, rest those arms, relax your shoulders. Good. Now for our spine, so we try and just move our spine in different directions and we just do sort of a spinal twist. You can do it standing, you can do it seated. So we'll bring our right hand towards our crown and we'll bring our left hand towards our tailbone. So you don't have to touch anything. We're just moving our hands up and down. So from here, we're going to turn to our left side. So twist to your left side and then move your hands away. Lift your left hand towards your crown, right hand towards your tailbone now, and turn towards your right side. So sort of twisting your spine right from the base, right from your tailbone. And again, move to your left. So your right hand towards your crown, left hand to your spine, turning to our left side now. And then moving out again. So bringing our left hand up, right hand to your tailbone, turning to your right side. One more. We're just going to move our right hand to our crown, left hand to our tailbone, turning to our left. And then we'll move our left hand to our crown, right hand to our tailbone, moving to our right. Well done. And then slow down, relax, come back. Now, a couple of exercises for our hands. So we are going to lock our fingers. So if you type a lot, try and look after your hands, okay? So we're going to lock our fingers and make it into a fist. And we're just going to move it into like an infinity direction or in any random direction to start with. So you can make a figure of 8 or figure of infinity with those hands, or you can just move them around. They will do a lot of clicking and clacking, and that's because we haven't moved them. Okay, so keep going. So maybe just 5 to 10 seconds. That's it, turn them around. Keep going. That's it. And relax your hands, shake your hands. Now, for your fingers, for the strength in your wrists, we are going to flick our fingers out. So it has to be done with force. So you're not bringing your fingers in. You're just moving your fingers in and then you're flicking it out. Yeah, like this. That's it. So try and keep your arms sort of stable. Use your fingers and the strength in your hands. So you move your fingers in and then you flick them out. That's it. Flick them out. Move them in and flick them out. Yeah, flick them out. That's it. Yeah. So just imagine you've got sort of wet hands. You just want to flick your fingers to get rid of that extra water. Yeah, so this one for just maybe around 10 to 15 seconds at a time, just to strengthen those fingers and bring some movement to the muscles around our wrists. Well done. And relax those fingers. Okay. One more for our shoulders, for our neck. So we bring our right hand towards our left ear. So you leave the weight of your arm here. You're not pulling your neck or your head, and let your head drop to your right side. Move your left arm out and try and bring your left hand, left palm pressing towards the wall on your left side, or rest your left wrist if this is too much. I don't know if everyone can see me. So this is what I'm doing. I'm pressing my palm and then letting my head drop to a right and stay here. So again, check your breath here, breathing in, look in front, try not to hurt your neck. So try and keep looking in front of you instead of looking maybe left, right, or center. Well done. And then slowly move out. Now to your left, we'll bring our left hand to a right here and let our head drop to a left now and move our right arm out. And again, press your palm if you can. So if it hurts your shoulders, it hurts your neck, then leave it. Otherwise, press your palm and stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rest those arms, rest your neck. Well done, shake them. So one more just for your sort of your upper body strength, for your posture. So we lose a lot of our posture as we sit or as we even sort of walk. We are standing. We lock our fingers around our lower back now. So lock your fingers here. Squeeze your shoulder blades. And maybe if you can, bring your feet as close as you can. Press those feet down and then lift your chest up. Breathe in, lift your chest up. Push your thighs forward. Well done. And then slowly release your hands. Bring your chin into your chest. Release your shoulders. Well done. Okay. Now, do we have more time?
Hi, Pratibha, that's wonderful. Thank you ever so much.
Is it okay? So I'll hand it over to you, Rachel, now. Thank you so
much.
Have a lovely day. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I think we all needed that. We're going to start the Q&A panel now, which Nigel is going to chair and facilitate for us. So we have compiled the questions that have been submitted and we're going to try and cover as many of them as possible. The panellist list is here. We have had one change. We haven't got Julie Everett Royal on the call, but we've got everybody else. So I shall hand over to Nigel and let the conversation begin. Thank you.
Hey everyone, welcome back. And it's great to introduce the panelists. I tell you what, it's not for me to introduce. They can introduce themselves much better than I can. So I'll go off my screen first. Lou Walker, do you want to just, and also if you could, just to put you on the spot, because you like this, Lou, is just a couple of sentences about what you've heard so far and how you're feeling about it.
Hi, my name is Lou Walker. I work for the Active Leeds team. I've been on the team within the development service for over 24 years. So I've literally worked at grassroots with all the communities in the city. My last big thing was working as the Leeds Girls Can project manager. And that's been a real eye-opener in terms of getting more women and girls active across the city. I think so far it's been really, really interesting and really, I guess it's, what's the word? It gives us hope, doesn't it, that everyone is on the same page and that we all want to make the same move and get everyone moving. And I do think that the variety of different people that are on the call just shows how much we all need to work together to do this, and that it can't be just one area that's doing it. So we have Active Leeds, we have Yorkshire Sport Foundation, but like you said before, we need housing, we need children's services, we need everyone to come together because every little bit is part of the puzzle or the bigger picture. So far, I'm really excited by what everyone's saying, and I do think that we are making a difference. We can see the numbers changing, the figures are changing, but we just need to keep the ball rolling and keep going as we are. I think we're doing great, personally.
Thanks, Lou. Over to Howard, please.
Morning, folks. Howard Bradley, one of the guys that run the LS14 Trust over in Seacroft, an asset-based community development project. We're also part of We Are Seacroft, which is a collective that works together locally in that area, and also a strategic lead for Leeds Community Anchor Network, which kind of joins together all the rooted projects, hopefully across the city is the aim. I really liked the bit about leadership, Nigel, that you spoke about. There are some amazing leaders at all levels in this city and in the communities particularly. Some of the answer to get even better at what we're doing is to trust and to develop leadership there in this area as well. That's what I liked hearing.
Thanks, Howard. Hannah, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Hannah Lamplugh and I work in Leeds City Council in the Children and Families Directorate. And my job title is Strategy and Influence Lead, but really I lead on child-friendly leads, clues in the logos behind me, which is a citywide partnership approach, and voice, influence and change. So that's about children and young people and parents, carers and families, really having their voices heard and influencing positive change. So I'm delighted to be here this morning. I think one of the things sort of reflecting from this morning, what a passionate, inspiring start from our Lord Mayor, who shows the commitment and energy that we need really, and there's lots of commitment and passion in the room. I thought, Nigel, it really struck with me when you said, in fact I wrote it down, when you said it's about reframing. So instead of asking, you know, you need to be more physically active, you know, what are the issues in your life and how can physical activity really support that? And I think in Leeds, we, as part of our child-friendly Leeds work, which I'm sure we'll talk about as part of the panel, we really listened to what children and young people say, and we refreshed our child-friendly Leeds wishes in 2022. And physical activity wasn't in the previous wishes developed in 2012, but it came across loud and clear that children and young people want better access and information about the different opportunities available, but also the support and encouragement to take part in regular physical activity. So that is one of our sort of citywide ambitions that meets and addresses our whole citywide physical activity ambition. So delighted to be here and part of the chat. Thank you.
And that's really good to hear, and you can see the changes being seen, listening and then having strategic changes on the back of that. It's super. Peter, please.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Nigel. I might be a bit of an outlier here. I'm a Associate Director in Master Planning and Urban Design from ARUP. And for those that don't know what ARUP is, we're a group of designers, engineers, consultants, planners. We obviously work pretty much everywhere around the world, but a lot of my life for the last 10 years has been developing movement and open space and spatial strategies within Leeds. So I've worked in the South Bank for a number of years, and more recently I've been developing some strategies in the East Side and Mapgate and Sheepscar. So while I am London-based, Leeds does very much feel like a second home to me, considering how many times I've been. I think, you know, I perhaps did not appreciate the breadth of support and involvement through different groups and organizations that are involved in this initiative. And I think, obviously, having understood and read policies that drive the master plans that we try and create, it's amazing to see how much involvement from this diverse group of people and organizations are driving this change in Leeds. And I can see, having started my work probably back in 2015, 2016, a lot of those physical changes that you were showing in some of your images, Nigel. And it's fantastic. And I think the way that it's front and center in the city ambition and in other pieces of policy really sort of create a roadmap for that change to continue.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. What's the opposite of outlier? Is it inlier? Can we have you as an inlier?
Of course.
Actually part of it. All right. Shall we go on some questions then? Just for the first question coming through, and I think you've had a glimpse of this. Is rates of physical activity, they're not growing equally across Leeds, and we were alluding to that earlier on. So how do we supercharge action on this as a collective? I think we'll go around to everybody for this one. Lou, can I start with you? All of you, you're going to regret me in the first top left on my screen. Go on then, Lou, please.
I think for Active Leeds and some of the anchor organisations, we're definitely already looking at supercharging that with the locality work and going into the communities and working with the communities and not doing stuff to them and seeing what it is that they want for themselves. So it starts with asking them the questions rather than going in and saying, right, we're going to set up football, we're going to do this every Saturday. It's like, no, what do you want? When's the best time for us to deliver it? And who in the family unit would prefer it? You know, that type of thing. But also, I think it comes back to, I don't like the term grave, but it is about cradle to grave thinking. So it isn't one demographic that we need to be focusing on. We need to have a blanket of everything and have all that in mind with whatever we're designing, so that we're hitting everybody within a family unit, or if they haven't got families, but we're looking at that whole spectrum of cradle to grave, because it's huge, you know, the way we can target different activities. So yeah, that's what I think personally.
Thanks, Lou. Thank you. Howard, please.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick up a lot of the essence of what Lou said there, because I agree really with it. For example, when I can talk from experience over in Seacroft, I've been there long enough to remember when things were done too, when we're going to do an 8-week sports course there, not asking if anyone wants it, whatever. The work that is going on there as a model continuing to do is just brilliant. It's co-production, it's asset-based approaches, it's understanding that people and wisdom and knowledge is in the community, and working alongside and with is the way that you transform. So that one, the supercharged stuff is already happening and is effective. It's how do you scale that, I guess, across the city, because it's not just needed in priority areas, it's needed kind of everywhere. And I guess I get that a lot with the Leeds Community Anchor Network. Often Seacroft in our area, we're always, because we're priority stuff is done there, it's what about some of the other areas? How do we look at that? And then also a point that you picked up as well, Nigel, is that Leeds City Council is, people are working so hard, but it's there's so many parts, and it's got to talk to each other. And so good communication and stronger trusting relationships with people in council, out of council, in communities is how you keep fostering this way of working and getting stuff changing, I think.
Thanks, Howard. Thank you. And Hannah, please.
How do we supercharge action? I think one of the things we're talking about, addressing sort of immediate barriers as well as sort of a long-term cultural shift, aren't we? So thinking about the work of partners, and you're all Child Friendly Leeds ambassadors on this panel, which is wonderful to see. But one of the things, so we do in our team lots and lots of work in children and families with, for example, children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities. So immediate barriers, children and young people have told us that actually they don't know about a lot of opportunities and activities, and there's a fear in terms of trying things out. So we do something called a takeover every year of our strategic boards, where young people take over the agenda, and they told us this. And so we put on, in partnership with the John Charles Centre, I think it is, a Give It a Go event, where all the students from all the different SILCs, that's the Special Inclusion Learning Centres in the city, had the opportunity to try out different activities. I'll never forget one young man, he was home educated actually, he came along with his mum and he tried crown green bowling. He discovered an activity that he absolutely loved, would never have had the chance, and he's now doing that regularly. Circus skills, accessible bikes, there is so many different sports and activities that are fun and engaging and social and impact on mental health. And we can't continue to do that. That was an event that we did as a one-off. We listen and we act. But brilliant that now Trinity University are taking that on with their students, and they're going to run that on an annual basis for students. So just like Lou was saying, listening and acting. The second thing is in taking away immediate barriers. So we have about 1,500 care experienced children and people in the city. And so one of the things we do is we have amazing, in the council, free leisure centre passes. But actually, a lot of young people weren't using them. Why was that? That's such a great offer. But there's such a worry about going through the door and how people are being treated and sharing your care status. So staff have been taking groups of care leavers to the leisure centres, taking away that immediate barrier, which increases uptake. So it's really speaking and understanding and taking the time and having those individuals, particularly in the third sector, that really know and work with young people to understand those immediate barriers. So they were just a couple of examples, sort of supercharging that approach.
Yeah.
There you go.
Great, thanks, Hannah. Peter?
I mean, I think one of the things that's really resonated with me so far is the focus on making physical activity or access to physical activity easier, and that immediately makes me think of some of the invisible barriers that the urban environment sometimes presents, whether it's sort of actual physical access and uneven pavements or unsafe crossings or things like that. Or it can also be not designing spaces for all demographics, as was mentioned earlier. So, you know, are we designing spaces for children? More than often, we are, but are we also thinking about how older people might be using those spaces and potentially using it with younger children? Maybe not in all instances. I mean, when we do master plans, we're often sitting at a strategic level, but I think often some of the most impactful interventions can be really simple, low cost changes to the way that people sort of walk out their front door and how quickly and how easily they interact with spaces that make them feel comfortable walking or comfortable cycling, how quickly they can get to a piece of nature or public space. I mean, there are more expensive solutions as well that I think we can maybe sort of think about these types of access or public realm in association with. So, you know, Leeds is finally getting mass transit. And I know for a fact that they're considering, how does active travel work with that mass transit? How does it work with public transport? What are some of the, I don't know, interventions that we can put near the mass transit stops or the bus stops to make physical activity? You know, you can put gyms next to those kinds of places, or you could put play spaces so that kids have something to do while you wait for your bus or your tram. So I think all of these sort of more surgical, tactical interventions don't necessarily add up to, you know, the enormous price tag of delivering either, you know, a new rail station or a whole mass transit system, but actually have a really significant impact on the communities where those infrastructure comes through. So, yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
That's fascinating, that, Peter. And the more you talk there, the more you see the opportunities in the future developments. I'll come back at you and just ask the question. Are we confident that we've got people in the right positions, such as yourself and others, advocating it with the right knowledge and the right solutions, etc., that actually when things are changing and being designed in the future, physical activity will be designed into it?
I think so, and I was one of my South Bank commissions was, if I go back maybe 6-7 years, when HS2 was still coming to Leeds, there was a shift, and it was palpable not only in HS2 but in other sort of major infrastructure projects where active travel connectivity from sort of the wider communities was really emphasized and highlighted by by HS2 in this instance, but by all of the sort of infrastructure delivery organizations. There was a recognition that it wasn't just about the infrastructure, which should be obvious to most of us, but there was an emphasis on what type of, you know, access could be provided to communities that are maybe further afield than immediately around the station. What kind of economic impacts might there be? What type of benefits might there be for inward growth? It became a much more holistic discussion around what the infrastructure was meant to provide, as opposed to it just being a mechanism for moving people from A to B. And I've seen that in a number of other projects, and I know that to also be a significant part of the mass transit discussion. So I'm relatively very confident that that is a significant portion of how we design these pieces of infrastructure into the city.
Right, that's brilliant, and that's really exciting as well. Lou and Hannah, we need to come on to other questions that people have asked, but do you want to come back there, Lou?
It was just to say that I think listening to Peter is really interesting because obviously, like he says, he's based in London, is it?
Yeah.
But then he can bring good practice from London and ideas that he sees there to Leeds. And I think that can work on a global basis. It's about replicating what other people do globally that works here and using that good practice. So I think I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. And also, you can take back from Leeds into London as well.
Yeah, we can.
Hannah, would you like to come in?
Oh, it's okay. I was just going to talk about place efficiency and how the work we're doing there, but I think that'll come up in other questions,
Okay.
so we'll let you move on.
You. All right. One question's come up, and I suspect there's 94 people I'm seeing on here, and I don't know the percentage from the public sector, but I can imagine quite a lot of the voluntary sector. So the question has come up is, how does the panel think we might involve businesses better in the city ambition? How do we better engage with the sector? Peter, I'm going to come to you first, if you don't mind, because you're from that sector, so it might help us better if we could start.
I mean, this is. I've seen this through my professional life, but also my personal life. So my business has a cycle to work scheme. They promote wellness activities in the office. I think businesses do have a role to play. Employers have a role to play in making sort of a person's day more active, more healthy. It can be as simple as a stand-up desk. It can be more elaborate with courses or sessions set aside maybe after work that allow people to use the space for yoga or some other form of activity. We have running groups at the office. One of my clients in South Leeds, he has a number of different wellness initiatives starting on his property. And I think, I don't know. I mean, historically, I've had an idea that, my work hours are almost sacrosanct. I think since COVID, there's a bit more flexibility for many of us, some of us, that allow us to maybe also use our lunch hour a little bit differently. And certainly, a number of employers that beyond my own that I know have sort of encouraged that flexibility and allowed people to sort of have the time to, like we had this morning, which was fantastic, to stretch or breathe or take a walk. And I think all of that is really important when you consider how much time we spend sitting at our desk and in our offices. The employers and the businesses definitely have a significant place in improving our health and our well-being.
Absolutely, thank you, Peter. Lou, I'm got again more pressure for you because I'm going to ask you to do Neil proud. Do you want?
I know.
I
hate to blow our trumpet, but we are going into businesses. Neil Jones is really picking up that baton there, and the more we go into different businesses and work with them to support them with ideas of how to support their staff to be more active, the bigger that agenda's getting, and they're seeing the benefits from it. So they're seeing the benefits from it in terms of retaining staff, how they get on with each other, the staff relationships, reducing absenteeism. But I think because again, when we speak of who this is aimed at, the same people that I think you mentioned, Howard, about how we need to get into all the other areas. It's not just the areas of deprivation. Those people are the same people who live in these areas, the ones who are working. So we can't forget that just because someone's working, it doesn't mean that they're from an affluent area or they've got the finances or the valuable time to be active. So we need to move it to where they spend most of their time, which is in the workplace, just like children spend a lot of time in school, and we need to make it more active within the school environment. Same with the workplace. So I do think that just from the work that Neil's doing, we can see that it's really, really, really important, because you've got things like the menopause, you've got things like obesity, the fact that we can be really, really active, but if you're sitting all day, that still isn't good for you. So it's about all that, isn't it?
Thanks, Lou. And there are other comments also in the chat as well, if anybody wants to pick those up. But thanks, Lou, for that business. The other thing also about business is actually how we engage the leadership as well and be part of leadership and not just be going programs and stuff as well. If it's all right with you, Howard and Hannah, can we move on to another question, if that's all right?
Could I just say about the businesses? Because
please do,
they're such vital partners. So as part of Child Friendly Leeds, we've got about 700 ambassadors and lots of big and small businesses. And the approach we take is we do ambassador workshops. And colleagues from businesses across the city have really valued understanding some of the issues like we shared in the slide at the start of today about the levels of inactivity, and then working collaboratively to think of different solutions. And some of the really simple things, some of the businesses in the city have a huge reach in terms of their staff network, their customers, and they can get across and help us communicate some of those key messages, key resources, and a lot of them are families, so they can reach families in different ways. So, you know, it's essential partnership, and the sort of model we've been working with has sort of made a real difference. So, yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities and it's really important.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's tapping into the skills there as well, isn't it? And the networks of business, not just about physical activity in businesses themselves, although that is important, and somebody's pointed out, especially in the Get Britain Working agenda and the Work and Health agenda, about the growth as well. All right, thank you for that. Another question from people was, again, I suppose it's the elephant in the room really, but against the backdrop of financial challenges, which we all understand, across many sectors, how can we prioritise physical activity, ambition and work? Hannah,
yeah,
do you mind if I come to
no,
you?
it's absolutely fine. So, I mean, very much linked to this, obviously you'll hear, I'm always thinking about children, people and families. Physical activity starts with play, and we have a play champion in the city. Councillor Hayden is our play champion. We're the first local authority in England to have a play sufficiency, which is about thinking about the time, the space, the permissions, the opportunities for play. And that's embedding it at really a strategic level. So in a time when there is less people, less resource, we require even more a partnership approach. And what we've been doing in Leeds is really trying to think about that lens of decision makers, and for example, planning on children and young people's opportunity to play, which links to children's opportunity to move. So things like we're working with planning around decisions that are made that might impact on a child's route to a green space. We're thinking about all different things. So there's lots and lots of opportunities there, but I think it's what we're trying to do with our physical activity ambition is what we're trying to do with our play ambition is embed it within policy and practice and get people thinking in a different way. And I know with Peter being on the call, there's a program called Urban 95 where it's phenomenal, where you think from the I think it's 95 centimeters, isn't it? What is our world viewed like? What is our city centre? What are our from the view of a 95 centimetre child? And it changes how you plan and things like that. So I think it's raising awareness, training, knowledge to get us thinking differently about the impact of some of our decisions. And that doesn't have to cost money. That's a different approach and a different way of thinking.
I love that. I've never heard that. I thought it meant 1995. I thought 95 centimetres. I've never heard that. But when you think about it, that's obvious, isn't it? What does it look like for a child? That's brilliant thinking. Can I just ask one further question? Because it's just something I was on the other week about opening the concept of poverty proofing programs, and is that kind of high on the agenda and making sure then when we do stuff that we are thinking?
Absolutely. It's one of our child-friendly wishes, and essentially we have a child poverty partnership in Leeds, and we're doing work with all different sort of partners and schools. We did a big consultation with children and young people from 20 different groups right across the city, and one of the things they talked about was stigma, and we hear a lot from children and young people about stigma in terms of changing our approach, and I think there's really innovative things that we can do to reframe. So like the work, so families who are struggling and low finances, one of the things, the phenomenal work in the city around the uniform exchange that's happening in most schools is actually been marketed around sustainability. You know, you get your uniform because it's good for the environment. It's much reduced that stigma. So I think around poverty, we just have to support families, because the number one reason why children and young people say they're bullied is to do with their appearance. And their weight. So one of the big things around getting children, young people involved in physical activity, and we talked about this yesterday with the Wish Lead for physical activity, is is really understanding where children and young people are starting from. And if they already don't feel they've got the right clothes, they haven't got the right equipment to take part, they're worried about their appearance, it's letting all those individuals who lead on physical activity in the city to have training to understand some of those things that might be those barriers. So poverty is part of that, take away some of those things. Sorry, I went a bit off track then.
No, I think, well, I took you off track probably, but so don't worry about it. But no, you didn't. That was great. Howard, can I come on to you? I'm sure you've got things to say.
Yeah, I'm again, where I always start is that asset-based community level approach, which we've seen models of in what we're doing now in Leeds. Absolutely, this stuff, there needs to be money there, there needs to be resource there. But if you go into communities and say, let's start with what's strong, not with what's wrong. Let's know that there are people with extraordinary skills, abilities. There are unbelievable volunteers. There are leaders. That's priceless. And that isn't about throwing loads and loads and loads of money. It also isn't about throwing no money either. It's about putting the resource we have in the right places. But if we build in our communities these networks of people, and we give that permission to go, we will work alongside and we will work with, as opposed to doing to, programs are sometimes really hard to be poverty proof because programs require endless money being thrown out and professionals and all of that sort of stuff. And the way forward we see is that ownership and that leadership from the communities with us working alongside. Scott, for example, Seacroft Community on Top, which isn't the Ellis 14 Trust, it's another project in Seacroft. There's a lady called Stacey there who and they're based out of the Dennis Healy Centre, which is a council building at the moment, which wasn't running as well as it could be. So we've still got, the council are still resourcing that working, but it is now alive with an amazing football club. There's a community-led gym. There's all sorts going on, because the flip was, let's not do two, let's work with and see what happens, Now, that isn't necessarily going to be there forever, and it still does need to be resourced. But the bang for the buck you're getting, and the ownership and the possibility and the direction and the amount of people that they can engage in physical activity, both sports, but also just movement and all of that, it's extraordinary. It's inspiring. And it's about approach, that asset-based approach, and that trust in communities that they can find their solutions.
Brilliant, thank you. Lou, I don't expect you to answer on behalf of all Leeds City Council on this one, but it feels like not just the council or other organisations over the years, in my experience, that when there is less finance around and it's kicking around, that kind of physical activity sport is often seen as the first to go, because it's nice to have rather than saying absolutely essential to people's lives in terms of health and things. Firstly, do you think that perception's shifting? And secondly, if it's not well enough, how do we kind of shift that thinking?
Really respect you, Nigel, but I'd have to disagree with you.
Good.
When it comes to Leeds City Council, I don't think that we are the first who is to go. I think they look at all the different ways that we can manage what we've got, what we can with what we've got. And I think that we are, as a team and as a service, physical activity is huge on the agenda. And I think you can see that from like the planning that we're doing in the city. A lot of, Mariana spoke about the 3 pillars, and everything is around reducing those health inequalities and introducing physical activity in as many ways as we can. So it's about being able to walk around the city better. It's about being able to get around the city without a car. Family parks, there's loads more family parks popping up everywhere, and the type of things that are in those parks are your old things with just swings and roundabouts. There's floor painting so that the kids can do different games, and so I'd say that obviously it's harder because the finances are different, but the team are working twice as hard as they've always worked, applying for funding where we can't do it ourselves, and trying to make our leisure centres as welcoming as possible to everybody, not just to any one particular group. So I think that's what I would say personally.
Excellent, thank you. It's great we disagree. That's great. Just further questions. I think Howard, I think if I could come to you on this. We talk about trying to reach communities and talk to communities, but that's often easier said than done. And you've got most experience of any of this, because sometimes we often speak to the same people all the time. And how do we really get to people in communities and connect with people in communities and hear the voices that haven't been heard previously?
First of all, I would say it's something we've got to get better at too. The second I say speak for the communities of Seacroft, the second you need to stop. You don't believe what I'm saying. It's a continual thing. It's about building meaningful relationships and continuing. Who is it that we're not to? Leeds Community Anchor Network recently in all the wards, and these are then collaborations of rooted community groups in all the wards of the city have just taken part in a listening exercise, which was outbased, but was exactly this. Going, let's not have the agenda, let's listen. What does it look like to make this community even better? What is it that's blocking? What resources can we bring? That was an extraordinary experience because we took real time and even as the LS14 Trust, we're pretty rooted, but we met so many new people. We linked in and we got new possibilities. So it's having that open mind, and it's continually telling the story of what we're trying to do and bringing people on that journey with you. I would say though, as a city, with things like Leeds Community Anchor Network and other networks and organisations, we try really hard in this, and we are trying to listen, and people are from all areas of the city trying to join up and say, let's not work in silos, but let's take this listening and move on. Of course, the other key thing with all of that is, if you're listening, harvesting, and then not doing anything with it, that's no good whatsoever. It's actually about, let's listen and now let's work together and take, this listening and work collectively, because the danger is, of course, what we do is we go and listen, harvest it, and then come back and tell people what we're doing. And communities get fed up of that. But I see people trying to avoid that, and particularly in this area of work, I think there's real positives. The approach of, I keep going back to it, but the Get Set Leeds local stuff has been classically about listening throughout, changing what they're doing throughout, responding to the people they're meeting. It's really positive.
Yeah, good. Are you still there? You haven't broken up. Good, because there's something I just wanted to pick up, because we've had another question which you were alluding to there. It was, how do we best connect local third sector and grassroots organisations together to improve the collective influence? And it sounded like you've already got networks. Do you want to build on that?
Yeah, so the Leeds Community Anchor Network came out of, do you remember during COVID when all the red tape went away and everyone suddenly realised we can't do it all by ourselves and the communities have got this? Loads of new projects, but new leaders all came together, and there was a real, we can do it attitude in lots of the communities around the city. And so Leeds Community Anchor Network came out of that to say, let's not lose this moment. How do we build on it? And that meets, it has representatives in all of the wards. It's an open door thing. It's not a closed door thing, but really tries to bring people together locally, and who isn't in the room, who can be part of it, but then connect across the city as well. It can always get better, and there's other brilliant networks as well doing it, third sector Leeds, all that sort of stuff. But it's really positive, I believe, at the moment, this network, and it is a way of really making sure we keep going back and rooting, but join up that community voice across the city as well.
Brilliant. And I'm assuming with colleagues on the call, we can get some detail out around that if anybody's interested in that, if it's open. That's really great to know. Does anybody else want to answer the question about connecting with communities there and making sure all voices? You've talked to Hannah about a lot about children. How you're getting those voices back. Do you want to expand?
Yeah, we're really lucky in Leeds to have Young Live Leeds, Voluntary Action Leeds, Forum Central, who they're already a network of third sector voluntary community groups working with children and young people. So building on what Howard was saying, I think sometimes we can produce communications, information, rely on digital, and then share and disseminate. But what we actually need to do is go to communities where they're already engaging, they're already meeting, they already feel safe, comfortable, and communicate in a way that works best for them. And often that is word of mouth. and then pointing back and producing information and resources that meets those community needs. So one of the things, there is lots of meetings where you can go and share with lots of third sector colleagues, and that might be a good natural step for our ambition around physical activity, to go to those spaces and those networks and share and explore how best to work with those community leaders, community champions. And yeah, so I think we're really lucky in Leeds to have such brilliant third sector sort of forums and just work in partnership. Yeah, and be open and explore new ideas. We're doing that a lot, and you get the best ideas, don't you, when you talk?
Yes, you do. Lou, did you want to come in there? Have you anything on that community engagement?
I guess obviously we spoke about the Get Set Leeds local work, but when I was doing the Leeds Girls Can work, I think what was really important is we had like 11 different volunteers, Leeds Girls Can ambassadors, and they were all completely different. So what I mean by that is we had a lady who was a Muslim lady, we had university students, we had a lady who was 63. You know, we had like a real variety of different women from different areas of the city, and they went into the communities. And I think when you see people doing stuff in the community that are like you, it's more likely that you will then start to do those actions. So when we used to do the like Couch to 5Ks in all the different parks, like Potter Newton Park in Hare Hills, or in Rothwell at Spring Park, people see it, and then in the end they're like, it's a bit like they call it FOMO, don't they, fear of missing out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to go along to that and see what's going on. And I think going back to the gentleman who's put a comment on the chat about safety for women, it was having safety in numbers and women that looked like them of all different ages congregating twice a week in a park. So it's about keep going back, and if you get 2 people 1 week, it doesn't matter, just keep going and showing up as a community leader, as the council, as a coach. It's that always being there, whether 1 person turns up or 30 people turn up. It's not about the numbers, it's about slowly moving the dial from people being inactive to being active. And it's can be a slow, long process because everyone's starting at a different place. So, you know, we have that behaviour change model, but it depends where you're starting at, doesn't it? So I think it's about us all showing up in the places that we want to make a difference.
Brilliant, thanks. All showing up. There's some tagline there, isn't there? All
yeah, let's do it.
We need to show up.
Yeah.
Show up. Even when there's a thing there, even when it's raining, show up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Peter, there's another question I think is it'd be all right if I come to you first. For some of our communities in the inner city, it's really difficult to access good quality green space and feel safe. How do we influence the decisions around urban design and safety around those?
I mean, I think part of it comes back to the discussion that we were just having about engagement, and I think sometimes design maybe doesn't satisfy the requirement because they're not clear on the issues that need to be resolved. And for that, it's really important to have local community engagement near the start of the process so that you can respond to it and provide solutions. So in terms of safety, I mean, one of the key issues that we find everywhere is simply something like lighting or signage or wayfinding that doesn't give people the confidence to move through those spaces, you know, at times where they may be sort of not exactly during the middle of the day. I mean, I think the challenges are obviously financial, economic. There are many priorities that need to be dealt with, you know, throughout the city. But if you can get clarity early on in the process at a strategic level, and then make sure that those priorities are kept throughout the process, all the way from a design concept all the way through delivery, then I think you have a very good chance of responding and providing the solutions that people need. I wonder if there's also something else about, I mean, it is community focused, right? And I think there are some times where, you know, you can provide solutions within the community that are not necessarily driven by a council or sort of a leading organization, where people can come together and make decisions about the way that they want their spaces to perform. And, you know, an anecdotal story, you know, in my neighborhood, we had I wouldn't call it a high street, but there were maybe some shops along the street which were reasonably well used, but a little bit run down. And there was one shop owner who took the initiative to try and change the streetscape of that space, and they collaborated with the council to agree the removal of one parking space, and were able to basically put a new intervention in there, which was a small little parklet, small little wooden platform, didn't require electricity hookup, didn't require water hookup, no infrastructure is required, super cheap to set up, with some seating outside, with some plants outside. Now that immediately makes it a place that more people will congregate because there's a place to sit. It immediately slows down traffic on that street because the cars will naturally slow down if they're in closer proximity to people. And it then also improved the amount of footfall, which improved the sort of finances of all the businesses on that street. Mm-hmm. And this happened probably 4 or 5 years ago. And today it does feel like a high street. And this might not be so, how do you get people feeling more comfortable in terms of accessing or having physical activity? But it is about how do you get more comfortable about accessing your physical environment? And I think that is comparable to the way that you access physical activity. It's changing the physical environment in which you want to act and to live in. So these small things, I mean, they can be community-led, they can be driven by, one small group that wants to make a change for themselves, which actually has a much bigger impact on people who are in that neighborhood and who want to use that space.
Well, I love that example. It just shows us where the solutions really lie. And actually, some of the solutions are quite simple and they can have wide-ranging effects. I love that example. Yes. Does anybody else want to come in on that about green space and access? Yeah, please, Hannah.
Yeah, I think I keep referring to this survey that some of you might not have heard of, but the My Health, My School survey. We had 23,000 children and young people complete that last year. I think some of the stats were in the first slide. And in the last year, from 2023 to 24, in secondary age students, their visits to parks and play areas and green spaces reduced by 13%. And in primary, it reduced by 8%. It's a downward trend. And one of the things when asked about the top issues that stop and prevent them going is around crime and antisocial behaviour and other adults that make them feel unsafe. So we can't underestimate how much fear and for not feeling safe you can have the most wonderful facilities in the world, most beautiful walkways and play equipment or spaces to do activity, but it's around that feeling of safety. And there's some really inspirational research done, I think, with Leeds University, Lou, and around, is it girls and young women in parks?
Yeah.
And how literally the design and space of parks and how seating and how, not secluded areas.
Entrance areas,
Yeah. So we just need to introduce that, like sort of Peter was saying, into our planning and design and learn from that really inspiring research. So I think it's we can share that wider with colleagues if they aren't aware of it.
No, yes, there's been some research with West Yorkshire level. I think we've done some as well. There is some really good, interesting, and there's a comment also in the chat and around some good work around Banshead Park in the city as well with women friendly Leeds. So yeah, it's great. It's a great point. Howard, please.
Yeah, just building on what you're saying, Hannah. A park are in Seacroft. It's called Rain Park, and there's a group now that run it. That they're called the Rain Park Revolution. And about 12 years ago, I turned up at LS14. Council and had put a park in with some local questionnaires, but it was all behaviour.
Howard, I think you just can't. We can't hear you, Howard. Sorry, your connection's gone. Howard.
Oh no.
Oh, he's making a great point as well, isn't he?
Very convincing.
Just nod our heads. Just nod our heads.
Oh, Howard, I can't hear a word of that, but you look convincing. Are you there? I'm going to move. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? No.
Yeah, sorry.
You're all right, Howard. You okay?
There you go. I was in full flow there as well.
Yeah, we saw you. We saw you.
Just quickly, I apologise, my headphones went, but basically, Rain Park, 10 years ago, no-go, antisocial, all the things you were talking about, Hannah.
Yeah.
It's changing when we put a play box in, the shipping container,
Yes.
working with
Amazing.
Emma Behrman and Playful, so
course.
learning from across the city. We had to rebuild relationships with parks from the council, partly because they put loads of resources in and they always get trashed. So the story of that park was it would never work. But we all collectively met together and said, we want this to be the best it can be for our kids. And now the Rain Park Revolution, which is a bunch of folk outside of LS14, they run that space, resources have been put in, it's been designed by the community, and the level of physical activity going on that park is extraordinary, because everyone come together and everyone kind of moved away from their own agendas and said, how do we collectively work to transform a place? And it was about placemaking, and it was also about physical activity. There you go.
All right, thank you. Just nearing the end, and I'm going to go off piste. We're going to go off piste here. So brilliant. You popped up, Mark. So please, Mark, you've got one final question, I think, for the panel. Thank you. You just want to introduce yourself as well, Mark, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah. Do you mean me, Nigel? Mark Durham?
I do. Yeah. Well, you popped up on my screen. Yeah, Mark Durham. Yes, please.
Yeah, Mark Durham, Head of City Centre Management for the Council. So my question was about active design, and I really like the slide that was shown on that, partly because some of the interventions were quite inexpensive by the looks of it. So the question basically is, how do we see more of that? Is it embedded enough into highways and planning and parks and others? And one for Peter, probably, are there any examples of cities that are really good at this kind of active design area?
I can certainly come with some examples of cities that are doing it well, and they probably won't be a shock to you. But I mean, my background is I come from Denmark. My family comes from Denmark, and I think if you look at most of the Scandinavian countries, they have certainly taken an approach in terms of designing across all of the demographics. So you will find those types of spaces that both children through middle age and into the elderly, they're designed actively for all of those different demographics. I mean, I'm happy to send you, Mark, a specific case. I can find case studies that we have done that help demonstrate how that's done effectively. I mean, I think part of it is awareness. I think that we here in the UK, and I've been here for nearly 20 years, so I count myself as a Londoner at this point. I think we've been playing a little bit of catch up, but I think that the awareness is fully there now, and you can see through those project examples that Nigel showed, and you see it in other parts of the UK as well, that this more sort of comprehensive thinking around what types of spaces we should be providing is definitely coming out now. I think we also need to be sort of, and again, I think it's happening, is not necessarily being focused on the big ticket items. Again, this comes back to the ease of delivery, the ease of implementation, that small little things can make really big differences. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It doesn't necessarily, Air Park is going to be an amazing asset to the city, but that's one of, I don't know, 2 parks in the next 50 years that's going to be designed at that scale, maybe the next 100 years. What we need to be focusing on are the more impactful spaces that sit within communities, the corner parks, the neighborhood parks, the community gardens, the allotments, the things that bring out people when they've got a spare 20 minutes, not when they've got 2 hours to spare and they want to take a trip to the city center. And that sort of networked constellation of open spaces, that diversity of open spaces, what city needs. And I think I think that's the way that we approach our design in Leeds and elsewhere. And I think it's really critical in order to hit the needs of the different communities and the different groups that live in those communities.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come in there? Oh.
I'm happy to come in. Just recap on your first question, Mark. It was around, is the more we can do, wasn't it?
Yeah, going back to the active design slide, Hannah, how do we get more of that in Leeds is the question, basically.
Yeah. I think we have to have obviously a partnership approach from a council perspective. I think we've got a cross-council approach in terms of our child-friendly ambition. We've got a cross-council approach in terms of our physical activity ambition, but it's building this knowledge and awareness. I think there's work we need to do across the relevant strategic boards, decision makers, to really build the knowledge and understanding about the change. If we can really influence design and spaces and the impact that will have, which is far reaching from mental health, physical activity. So I think there's definitely more we can do, but the amount of people who are on the call today from different departments shows that commitment. So we just need to be all thinking about it when we're talking and sharing the message. So I'm very much see what I can do to support that in the forums and meetings I'm in, and hopefully everyone will as a result of today who's on the call. I will say Mark and I have always gotten quite excited about creating different spaces and had a shared ambition, Mark, to have things like slides next to stairs and just be really creative and playful, getting people moving and more.
Yeah,
one day.
absolutely.
Thank you.
One day tomorrow. Peter, would you like to come in and then Howard?
Yeah, I didn't answer Mark's first question. And then I obviously had a thought come to me. I mean, I think what's really important is that the different projects, whether it's an infrastructure project, transport project, open space project, urban development project, we need to try and remove siloing as much as possible, because the amount of transport projects that I've worked on that have not included a consideration of public realm or open space is much longer than the ones that have. And in almost every instance, if we had been involved or a landscape architect had been involved at an earlier time, you can easily understand how you might incorporate something, not at astronomically huge costs, but again, having a significant impact and benefit to the community that is much more local than, let's say a new mass transit route or a new bus route. Trying to understand that changes to the built environment are not discipline specific, I think, is really important, and that holistic approach should be applied to whatever change to the urban environment that you're proposing or that you require. There needs to be a holistic approach, a holistic consideration of all of the benefits that could be extracted from that change. So if you're reducing 4 lanes to 2 lanes, it's not just about maybe active travel, but it could be about, maybe there's room for additional development. Maybe there's room for a parklet on the side. Maybe there's room for a community center. They have to be considered together. And I think, again, most people are understanding that, but you do still get, scopes through that are very siloed.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Howard, did you want to come in?
Yeah, one was, it's that this question that make sure that siloed approach is not there, because you do still see it in communities sometimes, and no one's meaning for it to happen, but subconsciously it happens because of pressure and all of that.
Yeah.
And then the other passion thing that I would say is making sure we put that community voice in that process in a meaningful way at the right point, not just as the bolt-on or whatever, but that communities and whatever communities are part of shaping and being involved in that.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I think we've managed to get through most of the questions, if not all of the questions. And if there isn't, I'm sure we can come back with the questions afterwards and report those back. Just I've got 5 minutes just on summarising where we've got to, I think, through that. Oh, what a great opening that was with the Lord Mayor. Such vibrancy, such energy. And she didn't say it, but I'm sure there's a request out. If there's anybody who'd like to take her on, she's only doing 14 seconds for 100 metres at the moment. So she's slacking a little bit there if anybody would like to do that. But a fantastic opening there. And it just shows the leadership in the city, and that's the potential leadership in the city that we've actually got behind us. And we all know there are financial problems and around in all organisations, but to have that top cover, to have that belief at the senior levels and also throughout ward councillors and throughout, is going to be really essential when we go forward with this. Just the fact we've had over 100 people in the room today is terrific. Something that just cropped up in the last question was about not working in silos, and we hear this a lot, don't we? We hear this a lot about systems working together. Well, it's not systems working together; it's people working together. That's what it is. People. And I hear an expression of reducing the serendipity index, and I interpret that as is actually the more you get people talking together, the less it is as a result of chance that work happens and good work happens. It just happens naturally because people are working together across organisations, and everybody's talked about that today, either in active design, about working in silos, and as Howard's just said, around communities and around organisations and communities working together. We need to find ways of doing that, both formally and informally, through some of the networks that I would have talked about earlier on and other networks there, but also informally. And to do that informally, somebody said earlier on, we were talking about trust and confidence and having confidence and letting go. All those things are really important. And the more we can do that between each other, the better it is. We need to have a meeting. We need to do this in person, because it's usually in the margins where the magic happens, isn't it? It's usually when over the cup of tea, it's usually over lunch, it's usually on arrival when that magic happens. And maybe next time we will do that and find chances to do that, because that's where that connectivity, that human connectivity takes place. And if we can continue, as I talked earlier on about shouting from the rooftops, if we can continue to get the momentum, I'll use the word momentum there, from today, and momentum of other work, of people working together, that would be great. I think we've talked about importance of access to information as well, and trusted information, so people get there. We need to get it out there, not only just where activities are, but it's about how and why and where and how support is available. And we've talked about about that support and those being available to those people actually we don't usually connect with, and people in this room will have much better experience than I on doing that, but that needs to come to the fore. And we've, in the same line, we've talked about building mechanisms in and ways in of making sure that everything we do is community driven. It starts at the community, and everything else is wrapped around that, and making sure we find those ways that we're building with communities and people in communities to shape things. There's something about coming out around different organisations. Look, the council's a big beast. It's massive, and it's almost different organisations because we've got different departments and things like that. And it's natural that it's sometimes not easy to be speaking with each other, and sometimes not even to be navigating with other organisations. And we need and I get from an external point of view, Leeds City Council is coming together on that in the big ambition, and we're working together to the same aims, etc. And that needs to continue with sport, with physical activity and sport that we understand it is genuinely a cross-cutting issue, and it's generally therefore a cross-departmental issue. And we've talked a lot about, and I loved listening to Anna, that 95 centimetre thing. I'm going to get on my knees, I think, and start walking and start kneeling around the place and start seeing things from a different angle and just see what it looks like from a child's angle. Obviously, I remember I need to get on my knees with my grandchildren and do that, because it's a fantastic concept, and also actually highlights the need to listen and to see things through the eyes of children. that we don't necessarily. I know it's an obvious thing, Hannah. You were saying that every day, but for us, we sometimes easily forget that. So I love that about that connectivity there. But it's also in the same light. We've heard a lot. It's been fascinating to hear Peter talk about the importance of planning, in importance of building planning and decision making into day-to-day work and all the developments taking place, and that point of the park at the end when you talked about Ayr Park's a big park. It's Ayr Park. Sorry, my accent was coming through. Ayr Park is an important, really important park for Leeds. We'll get that, but actually, as of importance is those pieces of grass, those little parks, those little areas that can be used. And again, we'll go back to a brilliant example is the solutions actually embedded in the community to use those parks, and it's how we're able to build in design around those small parks and small areas, just as important it is with the big ones. So that's what I've heard today, but what I felt is a lot of passion in the room. And you can see by the chats in the right-hand column, I obviously haven't had time to look at them all, with lots of links in there of our organisation's doing this, have a look at this was what we're doing, brilliant. And it's that coming together of all those organisations there. And it's not the start, because we've been going a long time, haven't we? But we need to continue this momentum to talk together and go. So that's my sum up for today. You'll have your own reflections. Please do feed them in. Everybody here to listen. We will do some next steps, no doubt. And we need to keep communicating. I think that's my last one. Communicate. If you think you're communicating, you're not communicating enough. We need to keep the communication going so that everybody knows what's going on. So thank you. I think we've got a final video, hopefully. So I'm going to pass over and, it's Matt is going to come in on his video, apparently. Thank you.
So I'm Matthew Carr. I'm the Run Leeds project officer. To sort of introduce myself and my experience in running and our work with the community. I started running in the end of 2014 after spending a few years recovering from quite a severe car crash that I was in 2009. That left me with aphasia and epilepsy. And in 2014 I started trying to get some level of fitness again after the crash. Spending time in the gym tend to cause more activity with my epilepsy, and that meant it wasn't worth trying and get fit that way, as it was causing more problems than it was causing. So I started running, and over the first few months I met the community of the running community, who sort of supported me from parkrun into my first running club. Started running a little bit more regular, and after about 12 months I was asked to support and help with my running coach, who, with his sessions. I started really enjoying that, and that ended up me thinking I could do that a little bit more. So ended up becoming a personal trainer. After that I became a a running coach, Pilates instructor, and after spending about 4 years working in the Active Leeds gyms, there was a role that came up, the Run Leeds project officer, and I sort of feel that had my name all over it, and I had to apply. And by my surprise, I managed to get the role.
We really wanted to get across a personal story as part of this morning, so thank you for staying on. We have actually made it on time, which, to be honest, no one's more surprised than us in HQ. So thank you ever so much to all the panelists, all the speakers. We've had such a fantastic turnout, and to have the event welcomed by the Lord Mayor as well was just incredible. To have Councillor McCluskey, to have Nigel's expertise, and obviously everybody on the panel, it's been absolutely fantastic. I've put in the chat the link to the evaluation. That will also include a copy of the slides, but as the file for the slides is currently 300 megabytes, we've removed the films from it for you, because I don't think you'd thank us if we destroyed all of your laptops. So we will circulate all the films afterwards, and we will also summarise all of the chat, all of the questions, because I think it's certainly it's a start of a conversation, a lot of this, which is absolutely great. So thank you again for coming.